Two goofballs are running against each other for a spot in Congress. One is Cam Brady, played by Will Ferrell, who is a fairly experienced congressman, but always seems to be in the midst of a scandal of some kind, and is constantly putting his foot in his mouth with moronic remarks here and there. The other is Marty Huggins, played by Zach Galiafanakis, who's fairly green, but squeaky clean, and seems to have a fairly sincere political agenda on hand. But he's very weird, and geeky, and effeminate. The ones really pulling the strings, though, are two greedy businessmen, played by John Lithgow and Dan Aykroyd, who are funding the campaign of Huggins. And as the campaign heats up, the mud starts slinging, with wacky, hilarious comedic results in The Campaign. This is today's review. I have the Blu-ray here, but it's probably on Netflix, and what a better time to revisit this movie than right now with the big election coming up, a crucial election. And this, of course, came out in 2012, originally 4 years ago, hot on the heels of the McCain and Obama campaign, where at the time, and still certainly today, to me it doesn't really qualify, I think, for, like, say, a political satire. More comedic exaggeration of politics in the campaign process. Like, it really, really takes full advantage of all the kind of things that you can expect from a movie about the campaign process, and being a zany Will Ferrell comedy, of course. So we see things like, the blatant sucking up to any and all groups of all kinds. Of the beginning of the film shows Will Ferrell making his little speeches. Is like, farmers are the backbone of this country. Schools is the backbone of this country. Argentinian tilt-a-whirl operators are the backbone of this country. Things like that. And, of course, all the schmoozing that's involved. The baby kissing, or in this case, the baby punching, as we see in a later scene in the film. And, of course, what it all amounts to is not so much any specific political agenda, but more about making the other candidate look as bad as possible. So that's really what this movie is about. And I don't know, at the time it did indeed seem like an exaggeration, but today it kind of feels almost a little bit tame. Like, this some of this stuff doesn't seem as horribly far gone as it may have seemed even just 4 years ago. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But it's a funny movie, and it has funny characters, and I suppose what Will Ferrell movies always kind of amount to at the end of things is, who are we going to pair him with? Let's pair him with Mark Wahlberg, see how that works out. Let's pair him with Kevin Hart. Let's see how that works out. And here, the pairing is with Zach Galiafanakis. And the two are both really good together in this film as kind of the opposing candidates for Congress. And they really have their own distinct kind of comedic styles that I think mesh fairly well in this movie. Like, Ferrell, of course, he's a heavily improvise-based comedian, so there are a lot of moments and a lot of jokes in this film where you feel he's kind of just winging it and shouting out these ad-libs and things like that. Galiafanakis, though, I would argue that he's a lot more into this character. Like, this is a character that I haven't quite seen him as before, and seems to possibly maybe stick to the script a little bit more. So seeing these two types of comedic talents on screen is kind of an interesting thing to see. And there's a lot of funny cameos and appearances here and there. We have Jack McBrayer playing this kind of very familiar type of character that he plays in this kind of Bible thumper, heavily religious kind of guy who's just about tortured by the Cam Brady character. And Rip Torn is playing... And Brian Cox is playing the father to the Zach Galiafanakis character, which I thought he was really good. Jason Sudeikis, also in the movie, playing the right-hand man to Cam Brady, and he's very good and very funny in the film. And Dylan McDermott, who's probably, I would say, like the highlight of the movie as this political advisor, this PR guy, this image enhancer for the Huggins character. I thought he was great in the movie, very funny, very kind of no-nonsense, larger-than-life kind of character. And of course, it's directed by Jay Roach, who I do think has a strong talent in directing comedies. Of course, he's probably best known for directing the Austin Powers movies. And in those movies, this type of implausible universe that he creates with those, you kind of think back to those movies, you do kind of care about Austin Powers, as goofy as the movie is. You do kind of care about Dr. Evil, as goofy as it is, which I think is a gift, and I think is something similar to what we get here, which, yes, they are goofy characters, but they do have fair enough characterization where they feel like they're coming from a real place. Like, we see a moment in the film where they both kind of reflect on what got them into politics in the first place. This whole kind of backstory about running for class president because this stupid swing set, this slide on the school was so rusty and hurting people, and he wanted to make a difference, and that's really, kind of what it was about, making a difference. And maybe somewhere along the line that's been lost. And I don't know, these two characters in the film, both in their own ways, they kind of develop their conscience, and they do kind of work for the better of the people, which is where it kind of veers off into science fiction. What's funniest, and maybe not funny, about this movie, is that just about everything about this movie we can say, yeah, this isn't so far-fetched now, is it? Except for the fact that the greedy businessmen kind of have to answer to their crimes, basically, which is kind of that we say, oh, that's completely implausible, isn't it? Which is a little sad, but this is a movie, it's escapist kind of stuff, and it is funny. Not every joke is a winner. There are some jokes that fall flat. There's some stupid things, but altogether, I think it is a good comedy, and I thought it was funny, and I thought the two leads, in Zach Galiafanakis and Will Ferrell, were both very good. So I would rate The Campaign 3 stars out of 4. Jay Roach, once again, delivers a very skilled comedic eye, and the two leads are very funny in it. So that's The Campaign. Give it a watch again if you haven't already. It's probably on Netflix. Kind of nice to take a breather and laugh a little bit if you're not laughing already. But yeah, that's my review. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit dare237.com. Go out and vote. It's important. Until next time, I'll see you later.